And I would like to introduce the gentleman. This Mbawula Chat will be facilitated by Ubulelani Balabala. The gentleman is Siyabulela Mandla. Siyabulela Mandla is a young, dynamic, and dedicated professional who's highly driven and committed to self-empowerment. Over the past 13 years, he has worked in the automotive industry, holding different positions from humble beginnings of being a machine operator to production team leader, technical assistant, technician, engineer, and now an entrepreneur. So I'm going to do a full circle. This is the gentleman that they're talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, please, let's put our hands together for Siyabulela Mandla, founder of 469 Enterprises. Motherwell, let's go. Let's show some love. Come on, we can give him more energy. All right, this will be facilitated by Bulelani. All right, so after the Mbawula Chat, we announce the winner. And we have the winner. No, he or she is somewhere in the room. Stay tuned.
Is it afternoon, right? I think that's where we are. Molweni, igama lami Siyabulela, nguMandla ifani. I'm from here in Motherwell. I think most of you guys do know. So I'm not gonna. I'm a participant today, so I'm not gonna steal the limelight. So I'm just gonna let Bulelani to drive, and then obviously, depending on what he says, then we'll take it from there. But I must say, before, just on a serious note, I'm quite humbled. I think Bulelani, I'm quite humbled by the turnout. And I'm actually quite humbled to actually meet Bulelani because I've known him through social media, right? And it happens that we share the same passion when it comes to the township economy space. And I think that's probably what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, you know what I love about my guest today is this is the first time the guest has got on the platform and he has spoken. But you know what that says? Let me tell you what that says. It's because of the deep passion that he has, because the work intrinsically is similar work of passion, delivering impact to people, and putting yourself consistently out there. And I think in our engagements, it's that resounding, you don't have to be here doing what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You could have been in Cape Town or in Santorini enjoying your money, but still deciding and being deliberate and saying, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, even on the backbone of whatever stereotypes that are being peddled out there, to say that the money makes it easier for us to do certain things. But there's this deep thing that beckons at inside of us that keeps us doing the things that we're doing. So as if no one knows you in this room, which majority of the people in this room know you, ngubani uSiya? In an alternate way, maybe not the corporate business way, but ngubani uSiya, and then just on the back of that, riding that similar wave, how did you get into entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Look, I normally, Bulelani, be the one who asks those type of questions, right? So when somebody asks ngubani uSiya, I grew up here in Motherwell. Obviously, my roots are from the rural areas in Transkei. We came here for greener pastures. My parents, it's a normal, typical, black child story, We're looking for greener pastures, right? We came to the urban areas, townships. Obviously, I was based in Sweden before we came to Motherwell. So my story is not any different than any of you guys. And this is what I always emphasize when I do some of these talks, that You know, any person sitting here can actually do something and change the circumstances which they found themselves, because sometimes these circumstances are not born through our own actions. It's circumstantial. So coming from the rural areas to the urban areas, that's one of the things that you get is the stigma, you know. So I suppose for me, all of those type of things, they've kind of, you know, zandinika nje lamqhelo of having to do a little bit more than what other ordinary people will do, right? So I came here, studied here, you know, and I found employment here, fortunately, after my high school, when the parents said that they don't have money to take me to a higher education, which is normal, you know, there's nothing, you know, it's normal. Most of us, especially if you are an elder at home, they will always tell you, basakhona bazayo. So when I'm umsebenzi, because we were prepared to do just that, right? Funda uphuma kwakho ungena emsebenzini and the next one will follow. So it's a production, you know, that's what it is. So I went through that process of transformation, right, where I really knew that I had all the odds against me. So I've got no privilege. So finding a job, having to go to town, pretend as if you're working, carrying a lunch box, standing in a queue in Firestone or wherever the industry that we have here, and fortunately finding a job. And by the way, I started as a cleaner in my working life, and I was fortunate that I got formal employment eventually as an operator, team leader, and eventually when I left the company, I was an engineer. So it took me 8 years of studying, right? Because unfortunately I had to work, I had to provide for myself and obviously provide at home. So now the next thing comes in. You know, when you are a sucker for progress, you achieve this, then you realize it's not enough. You know, so I realized that, you know, I've gone through the transformative process. You know, I've endured extreme hardship, but I've enjoyed all of that because at the end of the day, there was an outcome, right? As I said, I became an engineer. So when an opportunity came in 2013, the company was restructuring. So they said, look, we are closing, there's new intake, new people that are buying the going concern, and those who want obviously to move over to the new entity can move, and those who actually want to exit would exit. And to me, that's where my entrepreneurship journey started. And I think it started on the basis that I knew I was privileged in the later part of my life, because the company that I worked for, when I went to approach my MD, which was David Mahaffey at the time, and I know he's listening, or you will listen to this, he's from Britain, by the way, and I said to him, you know what, I'm very humbled to have gotten an opportunity to work in this company, but I want to study. You know, all my colleagues have gone to university, so I want to study. So eventually he said, be careful of what you wish for, and that's where that process started, right? And I got scholarship, and I studied on one condition, when Abulelani, that don't fail. Because if you fail, you pay back all the money. And that's where I started, as I said, and ended up being an engineer, and up until I did my master's MBA. Now, how do I reciprocate that type of an opportunity that I was given, right? Because I knew I was just, in a million people, I was probably, there were two of us that would get that type of an opportunity to get a job, to be paid to study, and for the company to pay for your tuition for 8 years, right? On the basis that obviously you pass. So I couldn't replicate that type of benefit, but I knew I could do other things, and that's pretty much the reason why I started a business. It came from that social orientation.
And I mean, when you sort of, when you find yourself transitioning from an individual who came up from Islalini, you then now orientate yourself in your career from a sort of low-skilled worker to a high-skilled individual who now becomes a professional.
Yeah.
How was that transition? Because now here you are, you've got the backing of Dine Salary, which gives me the backing. Ukba, I can make whatever deficit, I'll recover maybe after 30 days when I get paid again. Now you're in entrepreneurship. And then maybe on the back of that, talking to us about what the transition was like, but also what were some of the misconceptions when you got in? So Sfumene Ungapagats and thought to myself, I didn't think it would be this tough or like this or like that.
Look, I wouldn't lie. That is always a difficult thing, right? And I think if you follow just my thought process and my journey is that, I started from the ground up, and I knew that anything that I need to decide on, it will be backed by hard work, right? So I'm going to have to prove myself. And I know when I was an engineer, and I said that, we've been given this opportunity that you can either remain, with the new entity, or you can jump ship. And I said to the family, I said, I think I'm ready. I want to go and try my ideas. And my biggest belief was that if nobody is prepared to try my own ideas, and it's not me, I do not know who else will do that on my behalf. So, and also, this is not an easy journey. I was always confident, though, that if things do go wrong, I will always go back to the industry because I've studied, I've built networks, and I knew if things do go wrong, I will always go back. But I think just to go back to the entrepreneurship journey, what I did, and this is why we do this type of engagements, just to give testimony to people that these things are possible. So I'm always a very risk-averse person, so I analyze things. So and I needed to demonstrate to myself, beside other people, that am I an entrepreneur? Because at home there was never an entrepreneur. My family, my dad or my mom, they never even owned a car. Not to say a license. So there was no historical reference to say this is what a business person is, beside what I see in the media, right? So I think for me that was the biggest fear, but I needed to break that fear. And the way I did it, so we are fortunate here in South Africa. We've got institutions like what we are doing here today, where there was a competition, right? So there was this competition. So I thought to myself that is actually the first opportunity which I will have to demonstrate that I do have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So I entered for SAP Kickstart,
yes.
right? And to my surprise, I won that in the Eastern Cape. So I thought to myself, okay, now being a technical person, now finding myself being an entrepreneur was quite interesting. So I thought to myself, you know what, let me try again. So there was a CEDA competition. Guess what? I won that in the Eastern Cape. So at that point in time, I realized that, you know what, I'm confident enough to go and present my ideas. I believe in my ideas. I'm confident enough. And to tell you, Mbawula, those concepts were simple. I started with the car wash. I said, you know what, I'm going to compete at the national level with people who've got brilliant ideas. But I'm going to take a concept that every person knows, and it's a low-skill type of an entry point for workers or even entrepreneurs themselves, a car wash. And that car wash won 2 competitions at the provincial level. And it has gone through and to get to be nominated to be a top 40 business within the Gazelles program. And so that is where I as I said, I'm a risk-averse person. That is where I certify myself to be confident that, you know what, I think I am an entrepreneur. And I had to gauge myself beside what other people were telling me at the time.
So maybe just to jump in there, you won these different pitches.
Yeah.
Maybe just to take you back into those moments. What then do you think were the 1 or the 2 or the 3 main things that differentiated you when you were pitching? Just to the entrepreneurs here's benefit, because they'll be going out and life is a pitch, we pitch every day, so that you steal some of those nuggets from someone who's won multiple.
Yeah, and I think, firstly, never be afraid to pitch your idea. And you start with the people that are close to you. But one thing I will never undervalue when Mbawula, to me, education is key, and education is not what happens in the classroom only. I emphasize this in today's world that people have got so much opportunity with the internet. Information is available. I think at the time when we started this whole journey, we had limitations in terms of that. So my biggest strength, and I'll be honest with you, was the fact that I've been in a corporate, I've started from ground up, I have learned the capacity to manage things, projects, and all of that. Most importantly, I believed in my own ideas, right? So when I went there, as I said, I did not bring anything that was innovative. It was just a car wash. It's called 469. By the way, 469 stands for the area code here, which is 469. So when you dial here, it is what it is. So, and to me, that's all I sold. I sold this grand plan of having a business that is going to have a multi-layer of other business activities, right? That's what we do now. We're not just a car wash, but we started from there. And the administrative capabilities and the ability, I think this is what and I'm going to use a reference because you guys have said a lot. I'm an introvert. People, in my high school days, people, they never knew I could speak because I just keep quiet, and I talk to people that I'm close with, but you know what? I knew that was a limitation. So I had to learn to interact with people, right? And to be honest with you guys, this business is one of the businesses that has allowed, because this is my space as well, this is one of the businesses that allowed me to be socially inclined, to talk to people. Because me, I sit in my corner, I read my books, I deliver, and that's it. But I had to overcome that fear of standing in the crowd, in front of the crowd of people, and expressing my ideas, because I do have ideas. And this is something now that I kind of do without even being prepared, because these are the ideas, I internalize them, I've got a thought process, and as I said, education, and I will emphasize it, guys, that nobody must, and I know you can be successful without having a academic education, but people must never devalue the learning process, right? Because it is what differentiates you from the next person, your knowledge base.
Let's give him a big round of applause. Still on that, no? You sort of talk about starting this car wash,
yeah,
and winning competitions with a car wash. Yeah. I think maybe there's a number of myths that could be dispelled, or misconceptions, or negative assumptions, because someone else thinks, man, I've got a bigger dream than a car wash.
Yeah.
Then we undermine and we look down on some of the businesses that we could actually be generating income from by shifting. How important would you say, in the work that you've done, in your own personal experience, how important would you say it's important to, really just dig deep into businesses and not necessarily on a surface level? Yeah. Because we make these judgments and say, I would rather open up a food outlet as opposed to this one, but undermining the fact that this one has the money that we're looking for.
Yeah. Look, business is all about sustainability, right? There's a bank here, go and tell your bank about your dreams and your ideas. Until you put it on paper, it looks viable, it's sustainable, it's a proven concept, proven market, and you can back it up. That's what they fund, right? So the rest becomes a beautiful story to tell. And I think for me, that's why I said as a risk-averse person, I'm starting to, I want to learn, this journey of being an entrepreneur. So I thought it was a low-risk type of business, right? So I can start, I can grab anybody in the streets without having to, spend a lot of money on training and development. It's just that I needed people to understand what this car wash represented. It's the only formal car wash here in Motherwell, for that matter. So I needed them to understand that. But it was just, the vision was beyond just a car wash. We were selling a brand identity that was synonymous with the township. And that's pretty much what my argument is about with this vehicle. I've got other interests elsewhere, and that is why, and this is our biggest problem, in the township. And I want to hit home with that, because that is pretty much the reason why you're here, and that's pretty much the reason why I'm here, to say one of the misconceptions and the things that we undermine as people that are here, when we talk about the township economy, is because we do not understand that. Okay, sorry. And for that matter, we think if you run a business in Sentin, there is no point to be in the township. Yes, there are issues in the township. There are limitations in terms of issues of crime and all of that. But there's an opportunity in the township. And we've seen this space being dominated by other people beside the entrepreneurs that are sitting in this room. And I want to mention something, and if you do permit, just to emphasize this point, is that firstly, even, when we talk of the township economy, I don't know about you, but in my journey, when I spoke to institutions about the township economy, they did not even believe that it exists. I mean, when I wanted to do my MBA, my thesis was about the township economy, which they rejected. They said there is no such a thing called township economy. There is no literature that supports this thing. So there was a lot for me to prove, in terms of running businesses in the township. So the point that I want to drive home is that the fact that we undermine the resources that we have here, the opportunity, the market. When people say the township economy is worth 900 billion, we need to believe it, because there are big retailers, big establishments that are making a lot of money here. And so we have to start getting to a point where we appreciate, we understand, we explore the spaces that we are in before we actually be judgmental, because we've seen that is how we've lost the township economy space as we speak now.
I mean, you know what? I really like that, Why are you charging me up? Because now I must ask the questions.
I want you to be emotional.
It's instigating, conversations. But I like that. Just quite interestingly, I think enough, a week or 2 weeks ago, I sat in the offices of some multinational telecoms company, and they said, we love the work that you guys did at the township, but why did the township? Because we don't think that our customers are in the township. And I think probably 50 or 60% of the people in this room use that particular brand. But it was someone very high and senior, who was making these assertions. But for me, I think on the back of what you're saying is to say, it's important that we tell our stories but loud.
Yes.
Because uniqueness only gets you to a certain point. So uniqueness has an expiry date, and I'll tell you how. So if I grew up in the same township as Siya, and Siya breaks through with the Kawa story, I cannot now own the Kawa story in Motherwell because Siya has that share of voice. I would need a bigger share of voice and to go create a different story, which becomes way more expensive, which says, start small from a resource aspect with what you have, but go big in every time you're given an opportunity to share your story, share it the loudest so that you don't hold back. Because the moment you reserve, there are people on the other side that look at all the things that we have reservations about and take advantage of those opportunities. Then it's Pegama Lokshin, it's Pegama Pakistan, or whatsoever. But we had reservations about some of those things. But now, the only way for us to really cement ourselves in various aspects is to, but anyway, we're not there. We are not there. This is not today's conversation. No, we are not there. No. Yeah. Let's give Siya a big round of applause. So I definitely believe him when he says that he does this all the time. But Siya, now tell me something. I mean, what has kept you, we know entrepreneurship is tough. But there's this thing about you. I mean, I sit here and I look at you dressed nice, and obviously struggles are not written on our foreheads. So through the experiences that you've had, you've validated, the challenges, and you don't look like the challenges that you've gone through. How have you navigated some of those challenges? But most importantly, much because the question was also asked earlier on to ask Sis Pilisa, how have you been able to build the mental resilience to deal with the ups and downs of, no, we reject to inform you, we don't really like your concept, we don't think that it's viable, it doesn't have market, and all of that stuff. How have you developed the mindset, resilience that helped you navigate all of those things?
It's, I think it starts with self-belief. I think for me that because I had no reference of anything. I have never run a business before. And for that matter, I was never in a management position either. So I didn't know, in terms of the hierarchy, even in the corporate. So all I knew is that I have no privilege. Anything that I need to do, I'm going to work hard for it. And to me, that is the basis. And that is the things that we struggle with currently. Because if I talk to young people today, hard work is not sexy. Because we work 14 hours to 18 hours a day. I work 7 days a week with my different interests.
I want to cut you. I think you need to say that again.
Yeah.
Hard work is not sex.
Not sexy.
We could close the we could close the session right there.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the reality, and I think that's the phenomenon that we have to deal with young people today, and just entrepreneurs. The fatigue, the self, the instant gratification. This is a journey. It's not an event. So it means that you have to embrace the journey with its own constraints. Because you're going to fail, and you must never fail to stand up when you do fail, and you must never fail to learn from those instances. I have failed a couple of times. I've lost money. I've made the wrong decisions. But at the end of the day, I always see it as an opportunity not to repeat that mistake, all right? So I think that, to me, that's just the natural progression that people must have as a mindset. So the setbacks, we must never perceive them as setbacks. We must look at them as an opportunity to learn, progress. And as I said, the underlying issue here is hard work. We've seen people coming into business, and that's why we've got all sorts of problems now, is that people think it's a final destination. It's about instant gratification. It's about driving the fanciest car. It's about, showing people that you've got an invoice for R1 million. It's a journey. If we have to talk about generational wealth, where people talk of a third generation taking over the business, we have to get the fundamentals right. And those fundamentals are based on hard work, learning, networks, all the beautiful things that have been said here, strategic thinking, and I was thinking when Usisi that was presenting and was giving a definition of strategic thinking, I said, if I were to give an academic definition of it, I would also say things along those lines. But for me, strategic thinking is thinking without the box. They normally say think outside the box. I said think without the box. Professor Lubumba, that's what he said. So for me, those are the things that will differentiate you from the next person. If you're an athlete, you are never going to win a race if you don't train every day. There's just no ways. You can take drugs, you can do all these enhancements, but at the end of the day, you need to show up. I think it was mentioned here. I love the story of the first gentleman, and it's just a typical story of resilience. Somebody who believes in this thing and will not take a no for an answer. And I'm like that. But I don't go out there to talk about things that I have not spent time, researched, and empowered myself with. And that's why I say in today's world, the power of internet. And if I were to tell you, Bulelana, I'm talking about the car wash and the bar. Now we're in transport, we're in property and all of that. In my industrial work, because I'm an engineer, I still love the business of doing things. I've learned about plastic, recycling, without sitting in a class. Sit in my office at night, YouTube, look at the mechanisms, the process. Now we run a factory, we make plastic. We recycle e-waste. I've never learned that in any classroom, but I've sat there at night, read about it, learn on the internet. Today we are setting up our own refinery that is going to process all of those things. So the power of learning, I can never undervalue to anybody. You can be as hard work, you can have all of those things. If you do not know the space we are in, you can't compete.
Yeah, no, I'm learning. How many people are learning? Because I think the biggest thing for me is what you just said now. You can't compete if you don't know the industry we're in. Yeah. I walked into a retailer the other day and I was surprised to see amagwinya. But years ago when I was talking about amagwinya, You're showing up in a retail place. It almost seemed like you are a crazy person. You'll never find a commercially. But here they are, in a very fancy retail store that a lot of people like to go and buy in. And I think that's the real thing. We must know the real value of the industries we're in so that we can really do what Putsia is telling us, work extremely hard in pushing ourselves and then do exactly what he said, because it's free. Go onto YouTube, learn new skills, and network yourself. But I don't want to take all of the time with all of my questions. I want to maybe just open up to 3 individuals, then we move to the pitching, and not the pitch winner, and we eat and we continue networking. Is there anyone else who's got a question for Putsia? Question? Thank you. I've got a lady over there in the orange. Thank you, my lady. I've got a gentleman over here in the black. I've got a gent in the brown top and a gent in the cap. So those would be my 4. I've moved it up. I've moved up the ante from 2 to 4. So thank you. My lady.
Thank you so much. My name is Melanie. I'm from Melanie's Development Enterprise. And is that as someone who started from a family which doesn't have a privilege, then what happens when you have started this business and it is doing fine, it is just starting, and then you find yourself that, okay, right now I'm the only person who's working here at home and I'm depending on this income that is coming from this business, and also my family as well, the people that depend on me, they also depend from this income. And then how do you deal with that? In the this business is and yet there's a lot of people, okay, there are a lot of people who are depending on this same income as my business. How do I deal with that? And this business has to work for it.
I love your question. Sir?
Yeah, no, it's the reality that you've got. Whether you were, I mean, from what you're saying, whether you started a business or whether you started as an intern, in a company, and you are obviously trying to build your career. Those are the, they call it what do they call it now? Black tax. They've got a word for it. But I would not be negative to that because at the end of the day, that's the responsibility that you carry, right? And it is the same reason that must make you to work from 6 hours a day to 8 hours a day, to 12 hours a day, to 14 hours a day. And I'm sorry to put it that way because it's punitive to you, but you are the one who's got the vision. So it's a responsibility that unfortunately you're going to have to bear at this point in time.
Sure. Thank you so much. Let's give him a round of applause. The gentleman, sir. Got the gentleman over here.
Afternoon.
Maholo.
My name is Abongle Mazomba from the Garden Gents. I would want to ask this gentleman about what is currently happening in Motherwell. How are you navigating around the, what is it called, protection fee? Because you'll find Madlamini ekoneni wenza magunyi, but kula 200 ayenzayo ngola suku kukho uMr Mazomba ofuna ufumana into kula 200 ayenzayo ngola suku. Where is it going for iMotherwell? Because andisubana nto inququzela into amandenze business because ndiyazi ndoba ndizawutyebisa omnye umuntu ngale business yam ndibe mna ndisebenza nzima ndisacrificeile a lot. Some of us siye ku-culinary schools safunda. Now all of the skills sisenzileyo pha siya wasting because of kunabantu abajonge ubenefita ngam and uzawufumana ngaphezulu kunam ndibe mna ndisebenza. Mhlawumbi bakhona abandijongileyo ngoku mhlawumbi andizophuma apha le nto ndiyibuzayo ndingafa ndiyazi.
Mazomba, Mazomba, I don't know if it's the same. I used to study with him, NU5. What you're saying is a very serious thing, right? The issue of crime. Because to me, that's all crime. It's all crime. And in the space of being a township advocacy, and as part of what we do, it's interesting that this topic that we are talking about, we were talking about it at CEDA the other day, and we also had a meeting with the university talking about how do we deal with this thing of crime. And by the way, the protection fee is not a Motherwell thing. It started in Cape Town, and it has found its way. In the discussion that we had yesterday, something interesting came up. Sometimes there is always an opportunity in every chaos, right? I always say in a war zone country, there's somebody who is making money. There is order even in a chaotic environment. So we need to deal with it, and I'm obviously against that type of thing, because protection fees are, being paid to whom for what, and it's not something that me and you are going to be able to resolve, but it needs a collective and institutional arrangement, because the competency of crime prevention lies with the police. And but I do want to say to you, because this was mentioned to me, what is the root cause of this thing? And somebody says to me, these people have created a form of employment for themselves. And they have done it at the expense of other people. But they are not necessarily the cause. The fact of the matter is that crime is a big business, and you can look at it from institutional or big businesses, corporate, because they've got the money for security and all of that. And they're paying millions to protect their goods, right? And it's now starting to affect us because it's done at the low level. It's taking from the little that we have. But the fact of the matter that crime has become a big economy. And those who are in the crime prevention are making money out of it. Whether it's the recognized methodologies or it's the ones that now we are complaining about, which are obvious crime. So I have no answer for you when it comes to that at this point in time. But I think part of what we are doing today is to demystify some of those things. Is to say, you as entrepreneurs sitting here who have got a lot to lose, what do we do as a collective to discourage this type of thing? Because if we don't, you participate, the next gentleman next to you has to do the same, because you have now given authority to these guys to institutionalize this thing. And if we don't discourage it, it's going to be institutionalized. Now you're going to need protection fee just to go to the shop, let alone running a shop. So crime is an issue, and it needs to be dealt as a collective. Just to tell you, yesterday the Minister of Police was here. There was a big meeting about the issue of crime prevention and what needs to be done, because we are seeing the level of crime that we have not seen in PE before, more so in our township, right? But the root cause of crime is unemployment, right? Directly related. So I am not also saying that unemployment, I'm giving reasons or accepting the fact that crime is there and is agitated by the fact that there's unemployment. But it also says that we've got a responsibility sitting here, because if we are entrepreneurs, we are the ones that are going to create jobs. Subsequently, we should be able to defeat crime, right? And it's a long-term thing. So how I deal with that, I don't pay attention to those things. I deal with somebody that comes to me, but I don't support it. And as much as I know that, and based on the conversation we had yesterday, it was a different narrative, because to me, the person who said this thing, it actually rang a bell that, these people have created employment for themselves, forcefully so. And we've seen now that their services are needed, which we are now funding the same thing.
Thank you so much for that. Third gentleman, my brother.
Good afternoon, everyone. The name is Ngosomzi Damana. I'm from Kwazakele. So I have a baking business that has been operating for the past 2 years and 5 months. So now the thing is, and this question is also directed to everyone, if they can help. So I am not a professional baker. I didn't go study baking or anything like that. It's just a passion that I have. So now, to grow my business, I think it would be best if I were to outsource certain products. I know how to bake muffins, scones, gem squares, gem tart pies, you understand? And I also want to bake cakes. But for now, I am outsourcing cakes from my cousin. So now, since they say most people it's a problem, outsourcing, like food. So I want to figure out a way, like how can I go around it? And I think Sis Musana can also help me. She's in the catering space. Because I also wanted to learn how to do savory muffins. So I just want to figure out a way, like how can I grow the business? You see, because I also entered the Ignite Your Hustle competition by Standard Bank. I was in the top 5. So, and another thing, I don't have a stove. It broke down. So, but lucky for me, since I was in the top 5, so they were able to give us 4,000. So I take that money, I'm going to buy a stove. You understand? So that's the journey. So I just want to know, how can I go around it, like go about it with the outsourcing thingy? Yeah, basically that's it.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you, sir.
You know, you might not see it as a strategic thing. We were talking about strategic thinking here. You know, Bulelan, somebody said to me that, to start a business, sometimes you don't have to own the product, right? So somebody said to me, go to a manufacturer, you ask them that they must give you stock and you can negotiate on consignment or whatever. Go to the market because you know the people, you know us here, you know your neighbors and this and that. And then you go to them and say, if I bring you this product, can you buy from me? And they agree. So you have not manufactured a single item. You have taken it from somebody that has given you on consignment. You have sent it to a customer that pays you cash immediately. You've got 30 days to pay the manufacturer. You're sitting with 30 days cash flow, right? So all I'm saying, business is all about strategy. You start where you are, and you must understand where you're positioning. So maybe in the long run, you want to make these muffins yourself and all of that, but if there's somebody that can make those muffins, they don't have access to markets and you do have access to markets, guess what? It's a win-win situation. It's a collaboration. Kelston Group does not own any manufacturing of vehicles, but they sell them. It's a distribution channel, right? So sometimes it's not about you owning, and I want to say this because I'm very honest with myself and where I come from and our stereotypes, as black people, it's all about ownership, and I know where it comes from, because we've never owned anything mostly. So it is always the first thing that we want to do when we get an opportunity to own something. But sometimes the cost of ownership is too high. You see, so sometimes you do not have to own the means of that production. If you've got access to the market, you own the distribution, all you need to do is to talk to somebody that is very good at making those things, and you sell them. So the transaction is complete. But obviously, if you want to own the value chain, because remember, business has got a chain, then you can start participating, whether it's upward or downward integration. Then you can integrate your business by owning the manufacturing, because now you own the distribution. And that allows you to reduce your cost, and maybe it also allows the turnaround time, to improve on your throughput and your delivery times. But you need to start where you are. So don't see it as a hindrance. See it as an opportunity and something that you need to overcome, and put a time frame on it to say, look, at this point in time, I do not have the 10,000 rands for a stove, but Aunt May unaso stove and agana capacity or une capacity to make these things, and she's not obviously overwhelmed. So you go, you negotiate, you said, out of what you do, I just need 10% of your time, and then you can go to Peter, you can ask the same thing. All of a sudden, you've got a product that you take to the market. The important thing is, business, you can own everything, but if you don't own the market, we've got no business, right?
Thank you so much. The last gentleman in the cap at the back. Yes, sir.
Good day, everyone. My name is Siyabulela Mandla. I'm a director of Precision Genuine Solutions, which is an aluminum manufacturing company, glass retailing, and we also do construction, in terms of maintenance and repairs. My question is, I've heard that you have multiple ventures that you are doing. So I want to know, how do you do best, or how do you excel in terms of managing all those multiple ventures? Thank you.
Yeah, you know, as an entrepreneur, when you start, you become everything. You are the salesperson, you are the mopping lady, you are, I mean, it's just if you start at that low level, unfortunately, that's what you have to become. And I always see things as an opportunity. It's a constraint, but it gives you the authority to speak about what you do, right? Because you know it from point A to point Z. And the minute you are able to know that process, you duplicate. Business is about consistency. You duplicate that process to the next one and the next one. That's why KFC today, whether you buy KFC from China or United States or Britain, it will probably taste almost the same, because you duplicate the process, because consistency, that's what drives business. And beyond consistency, you improve innovation, you add more. So if you've mastered one business, the principles of business are the same. There's a customer, there's a transaction that needs to be made, you must deliver, and the customer must come back again. So you use the same principles, you use the same platforms that they have obviously given you results within your first enterprise or initiative. So for me, it's all about consistency, and you replicate. And again, it depends how you want to do it. You know, are you moving from one industry to another, or are you now wanting to own the value chain of that particular industry? The gentleman that was talking about selling muffins, now he now wants to integrate downwards. So he wants now to manufacture his own stuff. From there, he will make his own stuff. Maybe now he wants a farm so that he can plant, agriculturally, he can plant stuff that he can use as ingredients for his manufacturing. So that's integration, right? And you can do that because you've got the muscle, you want to compete in the market, you want to control your costs, because once you do that, you can reduce your cost because you've got total control. And you don't want, obviously, your business to be duplicated by somebody else. So I think for me, the art of doing business is consistency, is duplication. What works, you duplicate. And the last part, I think the other speakers mentioned this thing, is processes, right? And I think one of our constraints as SMMEs, particularly those who are in the township, because we are business ourselves, you are everything, but we do not document the process. You do not document your process that you can hand over to somebody else that can actually do the same job and achieve the same outcome. So it's important that once you establish a process, let it not be in your head alone. Document those processes, and once you are able to document, you impart the skills to other people so that they buy into that process. And that's how big businesses have started. And obviously, as I said, that there is a predetermined way of doing things, but you can excel in different ways based on your experience, your knowledge, but it's all about consistency.
Let's give Butsia a big round of applause. That then brings us to the wrap-up of this engagement. But however, it would be amiss to close without asking you for your final words, final thoughts that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I want to say to the guys, Township is open for business. To me, that's the first thing. So if we want to own this space, we need to be intentional, we need to learn, we need to participate, and that is why I'm so happy when I see corporates coming to this space. Because at the end of the day, we bank at NetBank, the lady from Sasol asked me if I've got a reward card from Sasol. I said, yes, I do have. So we consume these brands, and we think that is by virtue of, it's a natural thing. We consume these brands because they are visible in the township, they promote, they've positioned themselves. So we need to learn from them, but we need to do so in a collaborative manner, right? So that's why I don't think I would have met Bulelani if these people were not here to support the vision. So it's important that we collaborate. And for me, I just want to talk about the township economy and those entrepreneurs that are here in this space to say township is open for business. And everybody keeps telling us this is a multi-billion industry or economy. Depends what you read. They say 500 billion, they say 900 billion. They say it's 150,000 spaza shops accumulating 200 billion. In actual fact, those spaza shops were ignored because I got shocked when I got those numbers. 200 billion, do they understand? I should have been a billionaire by now. But somebody is making that money, and it's not any of us. Right? So that is where I'm saying that township is open for business. We need to take it seriously. And my biggest drive about this thing is that I need to see some of you guys that have come here, participated just like the gentleman, to say, I have made it through, and this is the value chain we have created within the township economy space. Then all our problems will be sorted, because my last point, and I will talk till tomorrow about this thing because I'm passionate about it. And one of the things that I also want to say, the people who are in this space don't even understand the demographics of the township themselves. I asked the other day people, do you know how many townships are in South Africa? Not even one person told me. And when I told them there's 532 townships in this country. Do you know which province has got the biggest market share of the township? They didn't know. It's Gauteng, Durban, Cape Town. So if you don't understand those demographics, economic indicators, so how are you going to participate? How are you going to be strategic? This strategic thinking that is not aligned, supported by microeconomic indicators within the space, how are you going to do this thing? If we do not understand, 30%, in actual fact, 30 million people live in townships. That's the statistics. It's factual. You can check. So if you do not understand those numbers, how are you going to participate in this space? How are you going to qualitatively, quantitatively extrapolate what your product lifespan could be? For instance, I know, Buleland, that when I started the car wash, at the time in Motherwell, there were 20,000 cars registered. And I knew that number. And I said, out of 20,000 cars, I need X amount. That's my market share, right? And I also looked at the rate at which they were buying cars. I do research. And I realized, the majority of cars in Motherwell, they are, second-hand. But there is a line that is coming, that people are buying brand new cars now because people are working, upward mobility. They are working, they're buying new cars, they're getting credit from the banks. They're not told to bring their uncle, mom, and children and grandmothers now for security. All of those things. So I knew that at the end of the day, the car wash business will never die. It's just that in a manner it will be done, because the majority of people that live here don't have vehicles. So the gap between those who have vehicles and those who are aspirational is huge. So they will still have cars. So we're still going to wash cars. It's basically that.
Let's give Sia a big round of applause.